Hello everyone, welcome back to another video on the JayBee Milly channel. I am JayBee and today I'm going to be giving a little bit of a channel update, but first and foremost I do want to say I want to almost interpret this as a Q&A of sorts in regards to our interviews and the future of the interviews and the direction that I want to take things in, because that's really what this update is mainly going to focus on, because ironically enough that's probably the only part of the channel that is a consistent, guarantee for sure. So as many of you know, I am going to be starting a job and it's actually looking like it's going to be Monday at this point, so pretty long hours. Like, I don't know the full rota yet, but from what I can understand, it will require leaving the house at around 6 a.m. and maybe not coming back until 8 p.m. depending on the rota. As I say, it's kind of subject to change. I've got 3 weeks of training to put into it, so it's not obviously a type of profession that I can go into because, one, being it involves a lot of confidentiality, but also two, I don't think that anyone listening to this will particularly care if I'm being a plumber in the Mario universe or if I'm being some type of MI5 agent. Like, it really is inconsequential, but that's kind of the situation that's going on. And so with those hours that I've mentioned, that's going to involve a lot less opportunity to record videos, to clip things, to put out shorts, and more importantly to do interviews, because interviews, I mean, we don't make them crazy long just because I don't think there's any need to make 3-hour interviews or, anything of like near that amount, because I kind of feel like if it's that long, maybe you're waffling. I mean, we do get chatty guests, don't get me wrong. I think the longest one we've done is Gary Chalk, and that's just over 2 hours, if I can remember that. It's over a year ago now, which is crazy to think about. But yeah, there's like definitely situations where interviews can take about 2 hours. Sometimes I think our shortest is 15 minutes. So it fluctuates a lot. There's not really a way that we can tell. But as things stood before we moved house, our recording schedule was pretty much from 10 p.m. until midnight, maybe 1 a.m. So that was quite limited there because I was living with my parents, or I had to wait for them to almost fall asleep, so like there were no dogs barking, like background noise and stuff like that. But then also now living here, because Millie works and obviously there's a lot of house maintenance to do and everything of that nature, our recording limits are pretty much, I mean, for me I can do it a lot of the time, but I know that you guys like it when we have Millie in the interviews, and it is the JayBee and Milly channel after all, so it makes sense that we try and keep Milly in all the interviews possible. Ideally she'd be in every one. Like, I know you guys think that, and I think I probably think that more than anyone, because when I hear about these things, I'm like, okay, can Milly do this one? Can we change it so it's easier for Milly to join? So that is at the forefront of my mind. But in terms of Milly's schedule, she gets back around 6 p.m. And obviously, because she has work the next morning, we usually don't stay up until after 10. That makes it sound kind of old, but we're getting there. So the main thing is that again, that is a short window, and now with me stopping work at potentially 8 p.m, that's only an hour to 2 hours maximum that we can record weekly interviews. Now, so far that doesn't mean that we're going to stop interviews or we're going to have to change it to once every 2 weeks or anything like that. I'm committed to find whatever time possible to bring in weekly interviews. I mean, maybe once we premiere interview 100, then we're like, okay, at this point let's have a break between season 2 and season 3, and I record 15 interviews over 15 weeks, and then we start premiering them 15 episodes in advance, so every week we can record one, or every other week, and we're still that far ahead and we can continue that way. Maybe that's realistic, but at least from my personal point of view and my plans, I want to keep them consistent beyond, at least up until 100. That's what I want to guarantee. But because of that time, it does unfortunately mean that we're gonna probably have to close the door when it comes to collaborating with people in America in terms of guests, because you have to think about it from this point of view. Us now, we're working normal jobs, regular hours, and like the people that we collab with, who we absolutely love, are going to be doing similar, whereas the people we interview, they have recording schedules around sets, as it were, or maybe they're working remotely, so a lot of them isn't necessarily 9 to 5, so they could potentially have half an hour to 40 minutes time slot at 12 p.m. their time, which is very ideal for us, being about 7 p.m., 8 p.m. our time. And so it's easy to get interview guests from America. In fact, I think the majority of them are. But in terms of the friends that we have over in America who we absolutely love, it does unfortunately mean that a lot of them, they just won't be able to join the interviews anymore, which is an aspect about this update that I want to bring to you guys, because I am aware that it's more for me personally than the audience, because like I think our most popular videos maybe have just me in, or just me and Millie, or three of us, and you know what I mean. I think very rarely actually a full house gets the most popular views. But in terms of my own anxiety, it really does help me to have people joining and people collaborating with, and especially because we all love them. Like, we don't invite someone to join us for an interview unless we genuinely like them or we want to get to know them more. And so it's a bit of a difficult thing for me to process that, like, there's a lot of people now that we're almost going to have to say goodbye to in that capacity. But again, like I like, it doesn't affect what I see numbers wise. So I guess maybe you listening, that maybe you don't care, but I just want to give a tribute to all of those people that have joined us from America, because we're just so grateful. I mean, when you think about season 2, obviously season 1 was a while ago now, but we have, you know, Alicia, Kayla, Tori, just so many names that I can think of that have joined us throughout the second season, that I'm just so grateful to know. Like, imagine that, like, we just start a YouTube channel and then so many friends come from that, which is just such an honor, really. It's such an honor. But, you know, and even then, that's not guaranteed that we're going to have full houses of UK guests either, because again, our UK friends are very busy, but it's definitely looking more possible. And I think that's probably the vibe going forward. We're going to have a lot more UK based interview guests in terms of our hosts and stuff. But yeah, that's the kind of update on that front. But also, beyond that, I'd also like to say I want to expand a bit. Like, I don't want to do non Scooby interviews really. And I don't think we're ever going to get to a stage where, oh, now we've done 150 Scoobies, now we're going to start a general Hanna-Barbera channel, so we're going to keep doing things weekly. Like, I actually do think we're going to be ready to end the series nicely after 150. But I want to reach our horizons a bit in terms of interviewing different types of people connected to Scooby. For example, Scooby-Doo content creators, people who are in the business but are fans of Scooby-Doo. So, if, say, for instance, the voice of Pumbaa from The Lion King is obsessed with Scooby-Doo, we could have him on despite him never having been in a Scooby-Doo project. And that's just an example. I don't know if he actually has been or if he's even still alive, but that's the kind of vibe that I want to get. You know, like, just people that we want to reach out to and talk to who are working there, but just Scooby fans. And I think the catalyst for that has been a few of the risks that we've taken throughout the channel's history. Like, for all intents and purposes, like, Marty Grabstein was a risk. Yes, he was in that Scooby-Doo crossover, but ultimately his main thing is Courage the Cowardly Dog. He is known for Courage the Cowardly Dog, and as he mentioned in that interview, it was a situation where Warner Brothers promoted it that little that people who were big fans of Marty were going to, say, a GalaxyCon, and they were like, oh my gosh, it'd be great to see Courage back again. And when Marty told them about the crossover, they were dumbfounded. So there's a situation where that was a risk. We could have almost branded ourselves as a Courage the Cowardly Dog channel, and yet a lot of people that were into Scooby kind of picked up on us. And you can say, well, yeah, look at your channel, isn't that obvious? But I think people forget that really we weren't a Scooby channel back then. And so by doing such a big name in the Courage the Cowardly Dog world, it could have been very easy for those fans to come over and then get annoyed that we were doing Scooby content. So there is definitely a risk that we've taken. And I asked in the premiere and I didn't like it at the time, because I almost feel, oh, so we peaked early and nothing we do can beat that. A lot of people that not just watch us casually, but the commenters, the supporters that we know by name, that we recognize now, a lot of your favorite interview, like, it was the Marty Grabstein one, and that was a risk. And so And then I look back and I'm like, well, where else have we taken big risks? And I'm like, okay, Sander Schwartz, yes, he was heavily involved with Scooby-Doo, but ultimately it's the first person that we've interviewed that I wouldn't necessarily put in the creatives category, but almost the executives category. You know, a suit almost, but a suit that understands the creative prospect. But it could have been very easy with all the negativity around David Zaslav going on that people are like, really? You're going to interview a suit at this time? But people love that. And if you look at views, maybe, and I know like, content creators like to say, oh, I don't look at numbers. Numbers don't mean anything to me. But numbers are the closest thing to an indication that we have on what's working and what isn't working now that they've removed the dislike button. So based on views alone, people liked the Sander Schwartz interview a lot more than a few of the others. And so I'm like, yeah, let's gonna get more executives on, more quote suits. And to that end there, for all he is more creative and suit at the same time, as you've seen from our Easter egg hunt video, we have interviewed Christopher Keenan, and that's going to be an interview coming up soon. And I think the biggest risk that we've taken of all was May Harrington O'Neill, who has never worked on a single Scooby-Doo project in her life, but was the writer of the article about Haunted High Rise. And that interview did better than I expected. And actually, if you look back at the timeline on the playlist, that interview outperformed a lot of the others that you could argue it really shouldn't have. And so I'm sat here thinking, we're going to do 150. And there's been some issues going on behind the scenes that I want to turn around. So, for instance, I did reach out to someone that worked on Scooby in the past. I'm not going to say who because they haven't gone public with it, so it wouldn't be professional for me to name them. But they declined an interview recently because we spoke about Scooby-Doo and Crypto 2. And so apparently we're part of the problem of why all the Scooby-Doo projects haven't been kicking off. And so I'm like, so the new guard or the current guard of Warner Brothers, I suspect a lot of them are going to be told not to talk to us. Like, because like for all purposes, when you look at Warner Bros. Perspective, we are troublemakers. Like we didn't break the the Holiday Haunt story, sorry, but we were instrumental in starting that first petition, interviewing Michael Korinsky, Bill Holler, all of that stuff. And we did break the story on Haunted High Rise and everything that was going on there. And so if I look at Warner Brothers and the bad publicity that we've given them, yeah, I don't blame them one bit. I would be telling people that have worked on Scooby-Doo projects that are still in my employment, yeah, you might want to stay away from these guys because they haven't been good for business. So I do understand, but that could easily defeat me mentally. Like Warner Brothers allegedly, or I can infer that they have issues with us, and the people behind the scenes that are currently in employment at Warner Brothers aren't going to want to speak to us. How do I turn that situation around? Well, I'll look at the success of an out-of-the-box interview like May Harrington O'Neill, and I go, okay, so let's look at this critically. There's a lot of Scooby-Doo content creators that are a lot, bigger than us numbers-wise, and they have taken note of what we've done and what we've achieved. Let's try and get them in on an interview and interview them. Or like anything you can think of now, a Scooby fan, not just someone famous that's a Scooby fan, but someone who is a fan of Scooby in general. Let's get in their perspective, because we could like Scooby for a different reason. We could interview someone that's a purist. We could find someone old enough to have watched the show in 1969 in its first run. That's something that would really appeal to me. There's also a handful of, Guinness World Record holders from the present and past and no doubt future that have become on the Guinness World Record for their Scooby-Doo collection. I think getting them on an interview would be amazing. And cosplayers, that was my first risk take concept that I had. Oh, I'm trying to think. It was about a year ago, so just before the summer or the entrance of the summer last year, I got a cosplayer who I won't name because it could always, change, and I want to keep things a nice fresh surprise, but we had a cosplayer agree to come on, but then like negotiations fell through in terms of like correspondence, like she didn't respond, and you know what I mean, like she responded initially agreeing and then we didn't hear back. There's a few other cosplayers that I really admire in terms of their work ethic, their range, and actually how many appearances they've made in public sporting those characters that I would love to reach out to and have on the show. but it's the type of situation where I kind of think to myself, we've interviewed a lot of people now. Would the audience, would people be turned off at a few risks? And obviously, if the overwhelming majority is, yeah, maybe don't do that, like, I would rather not have an interview this week than an interview with someone that hasn't officially worked on Scooby. Fair enough, that's just going to be how the cookie crumbles. But ultimately, with what I've seen from the risk we've taken in the past, especially that May Harrington O'Neill interview, that was really the one that made me think, I can turn this not ideal situation and turn it into the best opportunity for us going forward. I think that is going to be what I look to do in the future. So that's the thing, okay? The best thing to take away from this is I want your feedback in terms of out of the box interview guests. That's what I really want to get from you guys. But in terms of what I'm going to give to you now, please be assured that there's going to be consistent weekly interviews, at least up until interview 100, and then maybe we do another one like this, another discussion video, which has actually turned more into a mini podcast now, so I do apologise for that, but I'm just so passionate about these interviews. Like, I don't know if you can hear from, not necessarily my voice, because I know that my northern British accent isn't the most exciting thing in the world, but just how engrossed I can get in a conversation essentially with myself about these interviews. Like, the interviews, I love them. There's something about organizing them, doing them, editing them that I am absolutely obsessed with. It's my absolute passion. Please believe that. And so I'm just so excited about the future of them. There's some exciting things coming up, some controversial things coming up, and I just can't wait for everyone to see them and to listen to them. However you like to consume them, I just can't wait for it. So yeah, like I say, treat this as a little Q&A for our interviews, and it's not going to be turned into a video unless it absolutely needs to. I'm just going to reply to comments down below. But yeah, that's the video, that's the updates. Unfortunately, we're going to have to cut back on US collaborations unless we can stick to interviewing people at the weekend, which would be ideal for getting in touch with some of the people that we love in America and Canada. But in terms of us now, we love all the people that we collaborate from the UK. It's so refreshing to hear a UK perspective. So if you're a fan of the UK people that we have co-hosting with us, it's a good time for you, because we love working with them. We love speaking with them. And so if even that loss can turn into a win in terms of all that. So yeah, we're just happy to do these with anyone, because I know a lot of Scooby content creators interview alone. And for all, we're not friends with them, like, I can't not respect that element. Like, imagine doing all these alone. I couldn't do it. My anxiety would be all over the place. And okay, see, this is it. You get me talking about these interviews without Milly shutting me up, and I'm going all over the place. Solo interviews, like I say, this, like, nothing affects views except for the guest. So if people are excited to see the guest, if the guest promotes, that's what wins the interview. It doesn't matter if it's a full house, if it's one of us, none of us essentially. We could, I think, get a guest in just speaking by themselves and it would get the same thing. But doing the interview solo has given me so much perspective on how hard other people that do interviews alone must work, and the time and effort that goes into getting that down. Because here's the thing. What I do is I type up the questions and I then colour code them depending on who we have joining. And so there's a situation where if I know I'm on 2, I can read those 2 questions beforehand. But Sophie's speaking now, so I get time to prepare how I'm going to word it. Milly's speaking now, so I'm going to take what she says and I'm going to transition it smoothly. Whereas by myself, I don't have time to fully look at the questions beforehand. It's snap, like this, that, like it's back and forth. And learning that skill has actually been a process. So I've recorded a few solo interviews, I'll say that much. Ones that you haven't seen. And so it's a situation where I almost feel like, as me, I've only recorded 4 interviews or 5 interviews, however many I've done. I know there's 2 public solos, Sandro Cluzo and Patricia Murray, both amazing interviews that have done pretty well, and that's like mind blowing as well. You know, just me. But again, like I don't disillusion myself. Like, oh, look at the power I have by myself. No, not at all. Like again, it's all down to the amazing guests that we have on. But in terms of doing those, it's such a different ball game, and I really want to do more. Like that's the thing. Like, I would love to do more solo interviews just for my own training. But yeah, I want to have people's feedback on that. Now, of course, like I say, first and foremost, JayBee and Milly channel. Important that Milly is in all of them. That's possible. But when it is just me, I would like at least some feedback, brutal feedback if possible, because I have been trying to improve my solo game for such a long time now. Watching the Sandro one and the Patricia one, I seem to get into this habit of saying, I guess, as a replacement for a bridge. So, say Sandra will be talking about character design, and I have a good bridge. I can say, oh, so you mention, how it's the difference between, animating a person versus an animal. Do you find one of them different? Instead of saying that, I'm like, oh, I guess expanding upon that, and then I'll say the same thing. But I can cut out the word I guess so much from my vocabulary when it comes to solo interviews that I've got a post-it note in front of me that says, no, JayBee, you don't guess. Or, like, don't guess. Like, this post-it note's all about the shop reminding me of what to do. And so I almost want to make that its own little storyline on the channel, like me getting better with solo interviews, because it's something that I really am scared of. But at the same time, I feel like I did when I was just starting out this series in season 1. And it's not a better feeling, because obviously I miss everyone that isn't there. But I don't know, there's something about the solo ones, and I'm at least dedicated to nailing that, to at least knowing myself I can do it. I don't need to be scared. I've got this. So, yeah, take of that what you will. I'm going to shut myself up now. And without even rambling on anymore, I'm just going to say thank you so much for listening. Please like, comment, and subscribe to JayBee and Milly.